shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.
Yep. Hello everyone and welcome to Bead Games, a live stream edition we do here for our 48-hour broadcast called Best for the World. So I'm going to give a brief overview of what Bead Games is, and then we're going to go into a 4-player game here, and you're going to see that's streamed live for us. But we're doing it mostly for us here at least, but it's fun to have a video to share afterwards as well. So I've been doing this Bead Games exercise in this format for 4 years now, and it's a conversation workshop that puts us in what we call Generative Dialog, the 4th level of listening. And you can use it for collective sense making, collective meaning making. You can open a meeting or open a panel on it because you choose a bead. That's a word or a concept, or even some of the best games we have, like 2 concepts that relate to each other and things like that. So you can play around with it a lot. And for me, it's the best exercise I've done in my whole life. That's why I'm such an advocate for it everywhere I go online on social media and getting it to happen here as well. So the game is really easy. You divide yourself up in group 2, 3 or 4 or 5 people. Are you 6? You split into 2 groups. Or if you're on Zoom, you do breakout rooms, or if you're live like we are today, you sit around a different table or different rooms to prep. How you want to do it. And we all have a centralized app timer that everyone has the same timers if we several group and stuff like that. And it's an online timer I can share in the link if you're watching this live or later if you want to. You do this at home for yourself. So the timer is free to use and you can just do this. So the game, the rules of the game are very simple. There are 2 rules that we follow, and it's not hard rules. The first rule is when you're talking. Explain it well. We're going to talk 1 minute each in a circle. So 4 of us, that means for 5 rounds, that means 20 rounds in total. 20 minutes then, because we're doing 1 minute rounds. And in the timer you can select, you can go 30 seconds round, you can do 2 minute rounds, but we landed on 60 seconds is perhaps the best. You can go a little bit shorter or a bit longer, but we've experimented with shorter and longer, but 60 is the best for us. And you decide on a playing order. Usually one goes first, usually me, because I'm the one hosting it always, but new beginners will want to go last always. It's not necessary. It's fun for them to start as well. And then you go around in a circle clockwise in this. So I'm going to start, and Monica, Stellan, and then Nicole. And when I speak, the rule is I will refrain from using personal pronouns like I, me, you. So I won't say, it's easy to say, I think, I did this, I'm wondering, because that's how we speak and we've been trained to speak. But we're all going to break the rules the first time. I still break it after 4 years. But it's important not to get caught up on that. I said I, and then your whole session, your whole minute is about explaining yourself that you said I. So just let it go and move on. It's not easy, but if you say I, don't mind. Just move on. So that's the first rule. And the second rule is when you're not speaking, you're encouraged to listen actively. So you don't usually when you have panels and stuff like that, people not speaking are sitting preparing their talk in their mind, so they're not actually listening to what other people are saying. But that's what we want to move away from, because we're encouraged to listen what others say, get into vibe and things like that. And that's we recommend pen and paper. Some people want to jot down lines, words they hear from other people. I write entire sentences and quotes that come up, because I can do that while listening. But it's important not to like just sit and write what you last talked about and not listen. So listen actively and use pen and paper to remember things that you will want to spin on. Because when it's your turn, you can just pick up the last word or a word someone else said before in a circle, and you start talking about that. So these are the two rules, and recommendation is then, like, if you don't know what you're going to say, it's no problem. You can be silent for a whole minute. If nothing comes up, there's no problem being silent. We're actually going to start the whole exercise with one silent meditation, so silence is a part of the game. So, and if you're finished after 30 seconds, you can just sit silent for the 30 seconds out. And we will put in a 5-minute breather between each round as well. So if the timer goes out, you can finish your sentence. You don't break mid-sentence, because that also is not good for the flow. So that's it. Any questions?
Not so far.
Yeah, a lot of information in very short time span.
Yeah. You will get the hang of it after the first 2 rounds, and then you will come into it. So that's why it's no problem if the first round is awkward. So just
We'll be learning on the job.
yeah. So we're gonna start with a 1-minute silent meditation, and and at the end there's a 1-minute contemplation. If some people want that silent, but I always talk during that minute. So it's and we start. Because the interesting thing is what happens afterwards. You're going to experience that it's not the game in itself. It's when we put ourselves in this 4th level of listening that's called generative dialogue, the conversation afterwards flows. That's why it's so good to open a meeting or a panel with it. I tried to host this in some meetings, and some people want to put it last. They say, no, it's much better to put it first, and then we have the ordinary meeting, because then you're in flow. Anything else? It's okay, I'll start then. And we choosing the subject, choosing wisely. So if you don't know what to say, you can ask yourself, what is choosing wisely? And you just answer yourself. That's the easiest tip. So whatever bead we're playing on, ask yourself the question, what is? And you answer it yourself. So if you don't know what to say, ask yourself the question and answer it for yourself. It's very simple to get into the game that way.
Could you just explain a little bit more about how you phrase your wordings? You were supposed not to use yourself. And something.
I think
shouldn't do that.
Last year I was in a workshop. Last year I thought about it. I'm wondering, like it's how we usually speak, but we're not aware of that. We say I all the time. Or me. I did that. I'm thinking about that.
So instead, speaking about or thinking about.
Could it be that?
Could it be okay? Okay, I understand.
It's okay.
We is okay.
Yeah. As a broader we, or what is choosing? How do we choose? For how long has humanity choosing? You can go like
I understand. Okay. Okay, this is super interesting.
And if the subject goes off topic, it's okay. We can we just go with the flow. We have people showing up talking about completely different things than the topic, and it gives perspective on the topic, so it's fine. Are we ready?
We are.
And the timer will start with 1-minute silent meditation, and then we go. And you can see the timer ticking down on the table there. There will even be a ping, because I put on the ping now. Choosing wisely. Choosing wisely means there's another way to choose as well, or a lot of different ways to choose. Choosing wisely then could be that wisely refers to wisdom, and wisdom is life experience together with science and knowledge and what it is to be a human. So choosing wisely is like contemplating what effect the choice have on you and others. To take an extra round, not jumping to conclusions too early when choosing.
Choosing can be hard. If you choose something, then something else is not chosen. And sometimes you choose something and then after a while you can change your mind, but that's okay. Then you choose another path. Choose wisely refers to what do I know right now? What's the best knowledge I have right now?
Wise. What is being wise and where does it come from? Is it something we're born with, or is it something that we gain during lifetime? Or is it both? Maybe it's a both and. Who choose what is wise? Who get to choose that? Is that a collective choice, or is it a collective consciousness? Could it be that wise is something that is redefined over and over again, or is it something that is universal? Can we even find what is wise, or is it contextual every single time? Wisely also applies a conscious agent applying this choice, or question mark.
What are the other options? Too wise. The opposite would be dumb. Another alternative might be knowledgeable. So can we even choose in the moment wisely, or is it always, does the judgment that we're making in the moment, is it then proven wrong or right later on? So isn't wisdom always retrospectively seen? And is wisdom cultural? If I'm from another place, is my wisdom something else than it is yours?
Yeah, we can see wisdom looking back. The quote from Søren Kierkegaard. Life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards. So can we really make wise choices? Of course we can, because we can see them afterwards. But how do we know in the moment? Is that like a skill we train up then, to know based on previous choices this is a good idea again and again? But then it's easy to get stuck, because this was always the best choice, so why should it change now? and that become because perhaps the expert will always choose what they know best, but the wise person will know in the moment when it's time to choose something differently.
Wise for whom? For the community, for the family, for who? Is wisdom attached to culture, age, political views? What wisdom does we choose? What source do we use when we talk about wisdom? A source that's reliable, a source of science, a source of inner feeling of what's wrong or right at that moment. Next moment it can be others.
Is there a source of wisdom? Or is wisdom judgmental? Can wisdom be wise or unwise? Because if it's judgmental, I would say it's unwise. So I believe, I wouldn't say I would say, could it be that wisdom is wise? It sounds like that, at least. That means that there is some kind of a global consciousness, maybe? Or universal consciousness? Has wisdom and life same direction? Can we say that wisdom is life affirming?
Isn't wisdom always emotional? Knowledge is something verifiable. And if wisdom is emotional, how does it relate to truth? Or is it true? And if there is the unwise choice, what are we aiming for? There's clearly a benefit, right? Because otherwise, how do we make the distinction between wise and unwise? So, the benefit for whom, to whom? Truth, emotional. Does wisdom feel good? Does it have to feel good? Is it meant to make us feel good?
So many things there, like is wisdom feel good? Of course, the most important thing of this, of course, when we make hard choices, like the one I explore in the trolley problem, when like in triage, choosing who dies and who lives. There's no right answer, but we all have to live with the consequences of the choice, and that also, like, of course, it's easy to be judgmental afterwards, but wisdom is knowing that mistakes gonna be made. That's like the whole cliche about make mistakes to learn. We can actually learn without making mistakes, but in the wisdom part is the learning. Learning and wisdom is closely connected, and that means that choosing to learn, to explore a path. Sometimes people get harmed in that path as well.
Truth, is that the same thing as wisdom? That's a question, I think. Oh, that's a question. Wisdom can be hard. I know when you get when you get older, wisdom, it's a heavy burden. Knowledge of the truth in the world, the many people suffering. Wisdom and truth can be really hard, and or is it emotional? But if the truth is like people starve in the world, that's not emotional, that's truth.
Is there a true wisdom then? Is wisdom natural? Is nature wise? Is nature emotional? Maybe. Probably. Can wisdom be the other way around, that is the fundamental state, and during lifespan we get more unwise because we get some kind of indoctrination? Wisdom can't be judgmental, because then it's not wise.
Knowledge is learning from others. Wisdom always has the element of your own experience. Wisdom is something based on memories. But what makes it maybe true could be that it doesn't have an emotional hold and a trigger for the person anymore in it. So that's what's making the emotional experience combined with knowledge wisdom.
Experience, yeah. Wisdom comes with experience for each person. And the learning part of it is, of course, learning from old, alive and dead masters coming before. We don't invent humanity and society anew every generation. Maybe we should. Maybe getting stuck is in our systems that we have today. We're so stuck because we have enforced them with so much external structure and bureaucracy and rules that we can't choose wisely anymore. We're so stuck because we don't choose wisely. The system chooses for us in some way.
If wisdom comes with age and with experience, like a giant Yoda sitting there knowing things, then wisdom is personal and not for everyone, just that person, and that wisdom is associated to that experience that person have gained through life and can't be chosen by another. It's that person's own wisdom.
So if, or even, let's say, wisdom is personal, contextual, emotional, but not universal, that means it's extremely local, even here and now. That implies what is wise now is not wise now. What was wise could be wise again to make, choosing over and over again, but most likely not. So redefining wisdom would be an ongoing over and over process, and also the framework for what is seen wise.
What if wisdom has nothing to do with age? What if wisdom is plainly the ability to verify within yourself what has been told to you without, so externally from you? There's truth and there's facts, and truth is always a choice. What if it has always been about daring to verify with only yourself versus with everyone around you?
Yeah. Daring, courage. We walk away from dogma, from the one truth. Of course, it's before religion and dogma was the one truth, and now we have the scientific process that locks us in one truth, unlike all our rules and laws that gives us one way not to do things. It's all of course, choosing wisely is of course to walk away from suffering. And we created so many rules and systems and truths that both gives us suffering but also was supposed to protect us from it. And there's so much trauma and anger today that is not wisdom.
Is it wisdom to stay away from the trauma and the anger, like monks in Tibet? They're not taking in the world. They have their own world and happy in that world by praying and doing their the things that they think is true to themselves, and really don't care about other truths, like the suffering in the world. Is that wisdom, or is it neglecting the suffering?
Could it be wise to suffer? Can suffering lead to wisdom? Is wisdom related to a conscious agent? Is there a divinity, some divine idea about wisdom? Could it be that wisdom can't be catched, can't be found, can't be comprehended? Is it wise to think that you're wise?
If suffering is walking away, no, if wisdom is walking away from suffering, is wisdom always good? Is wisdom always heading towards the better? Is wisdom, what is the ultimate goal of wisdom? The bettering, the thriving, the pleasure, the hope? Would we recognize the better without the suffering?
Now it's okay to use I and we, what we think. So I think this was a profound experience for me, at least. So.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the thoughts are spinning around, and that I change my mind in the rounds.
And over again.
So I've been playing a lot, and Stellan is doing it a few times, and we had 2 newcomers, and every time we do with newcomers, we of course want to know what their experience of the game was. But the most important part is always what came to us during the session. What do we take away, and how can we spin on that right now or later forward? But we start, of course, with the newcomers. How was the experience of the game itself?
I think I have a problem with the English, because I have a hard to find words sometimes.
We couldn't notice.
Okay.
I talk with so many people over the world that's not as proficient in English as we Swedes and you are, so that's never a problem.
I think it was awesome. It was, and then you said something opposite me, and I'm, and that's good.
Yeah. So I had thoughts after each and every one of you speaking. And then when it was my turn to speak, I really needed to feel inwards of saying in that moment, which one is the one thing worth spinning on? And how do I make that choice? So being in the moment, talking about wise choices, constantly feeling inwards.
Choose wisely.
Exactly. That was like a little bit meta, so I had to do it while I was thinking about it. And I was very much caught up in that irony of this, and then going around in circles and making an evaluation of what do I want to respond to, and what do I want to say myself.
I really could see myself in your thoughts right now, because I experienced the same thing here, by maybe not thinking of what should I spin on, more like, wow, it took a new turn.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I didn't see that coming.
and I thought I was so wise. Shame on me. And I really loved I think there was some kind of 2 or 3 really spinning turns where I really loved it because it turned everything upside down, or maybe not upside down, more inside out, or at least in a totally new, not only perspective, but like more a new perception. I really enjoy that, and yeah, what to say?
Yeah.
Pity it was just 4 rounds.
5 rounds.
Five. Okay, did we
Yeah.
do 5?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Time flows when you flow.
Is it usually like this, or is it?
No, yeah, it's usually like this. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's people are not in the right energy, and some people like we have funny people showing up just doing random phrases, and what did that come from? And in the beginning, when we was in Stoa, we had some people who did poetry slam as well, so they started rhyming and stuff like that.
Oh.
And I went with the flow as well because so it's cool you can explore things like that and just go like full artistic and like just talk about like poetry in it, so it just doesn't make sense per se, just like you have to interpret it afterwards and things like that. It's very fun. You can do that route or well, and sometimes we have people who is very rational in their mind. They like they talk rational things, and that's fun too. So it's cool. But from the beginning we only did groups of 2, but I think 3 or 4 are much better because they're so much more dynamic for it, especially when you paired in someone in a group breakout room with 2 people and the other person there was no vibe and energy, so you have to like supply your own energy.
Yeah, I've been in quite many dialogues, as many people have, of course, but I believe there is some kind of extra level on it when you're heading for 3 people or more. Not too many, but 3 or 4, maybe 5, but 2 doesn't really add up, because then I have my suggestions, you have yours, we get some more like a ping pong game instead of building upon or generating or regenerating and so on. So I believe there is something happening when you get a third, because then you have this, I wouldn't say meta, but there is some X factor on it. The meta comes when you realize that you're actually doing what you were talking about. I really love that. I had to choose wisely because and so on. So
if you want to find out more, Peter Blocker does much of research, and he also divides people into groups of 3, even in his talks. So there's some funny conversations on YouTube with Peter Block around that, so go find them, or I can link to them in the show notes later. But for me, like the game itself, what really came to me is like we have all these systems and laws and structures and culture that makes us stuck in our choices. We can be from fear, or we can be from control or habit. So we doesn't make wise choices anymore. We choose what we did yesterday, or what we're supposed to do, or what the laws tells us to do. So
or what the environment tells us
Yeah,
to
exactly.
do, and the culture.
So how do you break frame? How do you go like crazy, funny, using humor and silliness, Monty Python style? Me and Stellan explored that as well on previous session on Best for the World. How do you use humor, Monty Python style, to break any conversations that's stuck? And you can use that in Glassed itself, but in society as a whole, we should use that much more. But it's tricky because it's not looked it's looked down upon, I guess.
Okay.
Any more thoughts that came to you? What's your takeaway, Monica?
My head is a bit spinning because I thought I knew what wisdom was really. Referring to wisdom, because it's who am I to tell what wisdom is? that's rather creepy because I thought I knew really.
Yeah, and that is the core of Class Bead Games. Everyone coming into a game, even if you're an expert, I think I talk about the future a lot, and even every time we do on future, I thought what the future was. But there you go again. Class Bead Games proves that you can always learn and reevaluate. So that's the exercise in itself. Does what you just described. You thought you knew, but you didn't.
You didn't. No.
Or maybe you did. Again, I would say we all contributed.
Yeah.
Okay, can I go now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I believe we did. Even myself. and even when I didn't really fit into because there were rules and I broke them once, I guess, at least, but I think I managed it quite well, and so did you. You also reflect on it. Wow. And maybe you can always do a meta on that one. So you can come around that one, but I believe we all contributed, and maybe something else also. Again, when we are 3 or more, as we are 4 in this conversation, I believe there is some kind of a extra force in the room.
I was wondering about the playfulness of this. This was a very contemplated game, but when I think of games, my association is more speed and enthusiasm, and so I'm now thinking, if we were to play this again, but faster, so that I do not have the time to really think, but more react. Yes, I think I had too much time to think and to prepare. So, how would that feel like a game, like joy, or would I feel more stressed? How would that influence the answers that I'm giving? That is now a thought on my head.
Yeah, let's experiment.
Yeah, let's experiment. Yeah, and also when you said this now, I'm thinking, is it answers we give or questions we pose?
Yeah, and then game is: are you playing with or are you playing against? Right?
Or are the game playing you?
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Yeah. But you were talking much more lightly than I did, and when you started to have a different kind of talk,
voice, more or less.
Voice,
yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah. But, you can do like that too. Yes. Because I felt a bit strained, but when you alter it, the way you talk about, that's right. You can do like that. But that's a thing that you experience if you do a lot of games.
Yeah, the perception of a game. That's interesting. Maybe that's a topic.
Yeah.
Another thing that comes to mind for me was by not referring to myself and putting it out, like what I say is wisdom and that's the way it is. That felt very strange. It felt very assuming, very entitled. So what I'm saying and how I'm saying matters. But I can see the purpose of the game and not referring it always back to me. Yeah, it's but still it felt like as you said before, who am I to say what wisdom is? But then by structuring the sentences as if I know, that is also another experience.
Yeah. And this is just the first of many, I hope, for you as well. And still, we had maybe one of our best games last Sunday.
I thought this was the one.
Oh, yeah. But no, I'm sorry to disappoint you. So you're not there.
We're sorry to disappoint you.
No, you never did. This was a really good game for me. And you, because the interaction I got from you was really good, even for new beginners. And I always enjoy this process. But even as I continue to do this game over and over again, and sometimes on the same bead that comes, we repeat some of our favorite beads.
You do?
Yeah,
you
of course.
repeat?
Yeah,
okay. What happens then?
we came up with new things, and we take the conversation in a new direction. And lately we've been starting playing with 2 words that connect to each other,
like choose wisely.
Yeah, choosing and wisely.
Mm.
Because now sometimes it's just one word. And we had an interesting session. We had 2 games. The first one was on up, and we couldn't mention down. And the second one was on down, and we couldn't mention up. That was mind bending.
Mind bending.
How do I explain up without mentioning down and talk about it?
Yeah. Okay. That's when I tell my kids where what is right. Right is where you had your thumb to the left. So yeah. Okay. So should we?
Yeah, and we
round up.
We do this online. So if you're listening to this, you're welcome. Find me on any social media or find our Facebook group called Bead Games. I will give you the Zoom link for our Sunday games. The 9 p.m. Central European time, 8 p.m. UK time, and I will gladly host more games if you have your own Zoom room.
Yeah. During Best for the World broadcast, we can always do another round of Bead Games, and we can do it in Zoom, and we can broadcast everything. So
the plan is during this weekend we have some open slots. If there's nothing going on, we will do a Zoom Bead game, and I will find people online. So 3 people is enough for a game, so it's no problem if no one shows up. But of course, it's only much more fun when more people show up.
1 is not that fun. Ping, it's me again.
You can start playing with different voices.
Yeah, you can put yourself in someone else's shoes. That's empathy. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for hosting this, Michael.
Thank you.
I hope to see you again soon.
We are creating the world we're now living in. We are competing in. We are repeating in. We are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality. Conceptuality, we are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.